Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike McGrath, the Chair of School Counseling, and on behalf of everyone, I welcome you to our third Guidance Discussion Group meeting of the school year. So let's get right into it. You all have a copy of the agenda. We're going to go to item 1. It's time to welcome you and, of course, wish you Happy New Year. A little belatedly, because it is January 23rd. But may you, your families, and your children have a wonderful new year. May the weather get a little bit warmer and the spring come earlier than usual. Okay, number 2, and I'll start to slow down. What's happening now? Let me first talk about the college search process for juniors and their parents. By a show of hands, how many of you are the parents of current juniors? Thank you. Fairly large group. And how many of you have had your family college planning meetings thus far? Okay, also a good number. I'm preaching to the choir there because you've lived through this now, but for those that do not have children that are juniors, here's how we do things. We had a wonderful junior parent night on November 28th. And then there were individual meetings in December and early January. Individual being one of our counselors and your daughter or sons. That's always followed by the family meeting. Weather permitting, we will continue those family meetings into early March. And that's really the first phase of good college planning for current juniors. And then it's time to visit. Some people have already maybe got a couple of visits in if the college isn't too far away. But what'll follow in March, April, May, as the snow leaves us and some vacations come, our juniors and their parents will be going to colleges to really get a good visit. That's an important part of the data collection. So that's where we're at with the juniors right now. So I'll move on to the next item. And I'll ask first, again by a show of hands, how many of you are the mothers or fathers of seniors? Just a couple. College acceptances for seniors and a shift in focus from admissions to college financing. We've come through the first 2 phases of college admissions. A lot of students that applied in September, October, November, December, rolling admissions, in many cases know they've been accepted. We've come through December, for those that know Early Decision 1, the Early Decision Program 1. Those students have been accepted, deferred, or denied. And if they've been accepted, as you probably all know, it's binding. Deposits were required by a certain date, so we're through ED1. And soon ED2 will be upon us with decisions. And then lastly, regular admissions really dominates the month of March, later March, between March 15th and March 31st. And the universal deposit date does remain for regular admissions May 1. That was the date when you were a high school senior. And that date hasn't changed in all these years. So that's where the seniors are. Of course, once a deposit solidifies the enrollment, if you ever want to discuss financial aid counseling, you work with me. I have the expertise because I worked in higher ed for 32 years. Part of that in financial aid. So if you ever want to talk about any form of financial aid, please call me. I will not do college counseling for your children. You're in good hands with other people. But if you want to start to talk about the financing, etc., I would be glad to meet with you and can do that within 1 day. So just call me today, I'll meet you tomorrow. Call me Friday, I'll meet you on Monday or Tuesday, whatever works for you. Next, NCAA student athletes. Let me differentiate NCAA Division 1 and 2 versus 3. I'll start with 3. If juniors and seniors want to play sport in college, and it's NCAA Division 3, the good news is there's not many rules and they don't have to register with the NCAA Eligibility Center. Over the years, I've worked with baseball players that went to Williams and Franklin and Marshall. I've worked with basketball players that went to NYU. These are wonderful institutions of higher learning, and they run very nice athletic programs for women and men. But again, students going Division III don't have to register with the NCAA Eligibility Center. Conversely, if your daughters or sons are superior athletes and they're being recruited for NCAA Division I or II sports, they do need to go online to the NCAA Eligibility Center, and they need to register. Freshmen and sophomores don't have to do it. We'll remind you and them when they get to junior year. They should register. It's one of the easiest online registration systems I have ever seen. Several years ago, I sat in the office with some juniors and seniors and watched them do it. They needed no assistance from me. It's user-friendly, very easy to do. So that's the first step. And then I get emails every time a child registers. My office is responsible for sending a transcript at the end of junior year, which we'll do about July 1st. And lastly, after our student athletes graduate, we have to send a final transcript to the NCAA. What the student has to do is send standardized test scores. We do not have the authority to do that. Although we know the scores have to be arranged to be sent from the College Board or the ACT directly to the NCAA. And I would say, sophomore success. We're going to do this in late March. How many of you are moms and dads of current sophomores? Good stuff. You'll be hearing more about this and you'll see it later. The Sophomore Success Program is designed to introduce students to Naviance in a deeper, more meaningful way. Because Naviance will be the software package that they use to apply to colleges and universities. So in late March, my team will go into English classes. We'll use Chromebooks. We'll open up to Naviance. We'll get them going with the username and password. And we're going to teach them how to write a resume. Now, the resume is very practical. If they're applying for a summer job as a camp counselor, they can use this resume. It's also used to send to colleges later, which will be the fall of the senior year. And of course, the sophomores will build the resume over the next 2 years. So Naviance has a nice resume system. We'll teach them how to use it. The other thing I like is it's diagnostic. I remember my second year here, I sat with one of my students. He put his name, address, his phone number, and I said, what else are you going to add? He goes, nothing. I don't do anything. I said, everybody does something. He goes, I do nothing but play video games. I started to laugh. I didn't believe it. I called his mother. She said he does nothing but play video games. But we were able to use it as a diagnostic instrument. And we started to introduce him to the great activities that are offered here. All of our co-curricular, extracurricular clubs, all the great things that are offered in the community. And I'm happy to say within a year, the resume started to get longer, both longer in terms of quality and quantity, and more importantly, he was a happier young man, so the story ended fine. So if your child hasn't been doing much, that's going to become painfully apparent, and then the counselors start to do good work, advising them on activities that are truly meaningful. So we'll be doing that starting in late March. Next, and this is the most important topic actually, even though I listed it 5th or 6th, it's the most important thing we're doing right now, and you know that because I've been sending you a series of emails since December to make sure that all of you are fully in the loop on course request and scheduling for next year. So now, where are we at? Chris Walsh held scheduling assemblies on January 2nd, our first day back. Who spoke to the students? Dwayne Smith, Melissa Stoll, and Jen Layden talked about global scholars. They talked to the freshmen. Stephanie Greenwell, who does a great job as coordinator of science research, also talked to the freshmen. And she brought one of her seniors, two seniors, one male, one female, and they talked about their firsthand experience doing the science research program in classes. So that was a very informative thing. Other guest speakers in the senior year, or I should say in the junior year for senior year, Tom Andriello did a beautiful job talking about senior mentor. Doug Carpenter did another great job talking about peer leader. Chris Walsh talked about the overall importance of course selection. And then we put the students in breakout groups. And then the counselors took over and added more specificity. As you know, Kira Hunt and I work with freshmen only, so we worked with the freshmen and gave them a lot of good advice about things like 7 a.m. health, and I'll talk about that more in a moment. So they got a really good start. And then there was a 7 or 8 day period where students had to add AP and other advanced course requests in eSchool data, and they've done that. So what could they add? A freshman could add science research, global scholars, and/or AP World History. A current sophomore, oh God, could add a lot of stuff. AP English 11, AP US History, AP Statistics, etc. And then a current junior could add even more. AP Calculus, AP Chemistry, those types of things. So it includes science research, global scholars, perspectives in literature for seniors, and all of our AP classes in art, music, and everything. So right now we're in a lull period, and we're going to get back into scheduling big time. If you look under the notes, freshmen, sophomore, and juniors will add electives for next year between those dates. What we're going to do after the week recess in February, starting on February 25th, the Monday, we're going to push into the English classes. Your children will open up Chromebooks. We use a document called Fact Sheet 2. Fact Sheet 2 contains all the electives, where Fact Sheet 1 has all of the AP courses. And we will talk about electives, which ones are good, how to match them up. If you want to take AP Photo, what you have to do beforehand to make sure that's part of the reality in junior or senior year. And we'll be doing that for 3 weeks. The date of March 15th is important. By then, decisions will be made about science research and all the AP courses. My counselors will spend a week checking everything to make sure it's all looking good. And then I'll write to you and say, the parent portal is open. You can see the teacher recommendations and the course requests for your children. And we'll keep it open about 10 days. If you like everything that's there and you're in full agreement, no action is required on your part. If you're not happy or there's something that needs to be addressed, you're going to call one of the counselors immediately. And working on behalf of your child and you, we will address it and make the necessary changes. We'll wrap that up by about April 1st. And then we go quiet again and we start running schedules. It takes about 110 runs to produce a schedule that will work for most young people. Takes really 5 weeks. Kristen Sautner and I will start doing this around April 3rd, 4th, 5th. Takes about 5 weeks to run 110 schedules. At first, we only schedule 50% of the students. Then we start moving. You move AP French from here to here. You move advanced photography there, and your percentage keeps going up. Then you feel happy. Then you move AP Calculus, and you get down 3 percentage points. Then we feel sad. But it's a big puzzle. If you like puzzles, keep moving along. We get everybody scheduled, and then we're ready to go for the 2019-2020 school year. A couple of quick things before I take your questions. Let me get back to 7 a.m. health and the economics classes. I'll do the ECHO one first. For parents of current juniors, imagine your son or daughter wants to fill all 8 periods that we offer. New York State requires a half year of economics. This started 3 years ago. 3 years, 2 or 3. I'm not remembering, maybe year 2 or 3. Dr. Sandy App teaches economics, 1 course in the fall, 1 in the spring at 7 a.m. We have about 32 students in the senior year right now taking ECHO in the fall or the spring. It allows them to fill the other 8 periods with things that they want and need. Great news. Again, I'm talking to the parents of current juniors, and I got to remember the official course titles. U.S. Government and Politics / Economics. And we've taken AP Human Geography, a great course taught by Joanna Lewick, / Economics. If a senior takes either course, forget what I said about economics.
Okay.
They will not need 7 a.m. economics. They will not need the normal economics that we run fall and spring from periods 1 to 8. So let me repeat those. They're brand new courses. I've read the syllabi from the College Board. They look like really dynamic, exciting courses. AP Human Geography / Economics. AP Government and Politics / Economics. So yes, thank you for asking the question. They're new editions effective September 1st, and it's great. So that's the story about 7 a.m. ECHO, who would need it, and a couple of caveats because of the new courses. Our deadlines are all soft, and I like that about our culture. I like that Byram Hills is flexible, because someone may not have been turned on to AP Government and Politics / Economics on January 9th. But they talk to friends and neighbors, and on January 22nd or February 5th, they want in. If your child would like to take an AP course next year but did not request it previously, they need to go see the chair. And I'll share some names. It's people you know well, and I'm sure you admire them like I do. In English, Dwayne Smith. That would apply to AP English 11, AP English 12, or Perspectives in Literature. Have your daughter or son see Dwayne in the next few days. He's on a professional trip in California. He will not be back till Monday. Have your child see Dwayne Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. In the world of social studies, it's Jen Layden. So specific to AP Government and Politics and AP Human Geography, again, / Economics for both, see Jen Layden. In the world of AP Calculus AB, AP Calculus BC, AP Computer Science, AP Computer Science Principles. Have your child see Lisa Pellegrino. Into the world of science, Deb K. AP Bio, AP Chem, AP Physics 1, AP Physics C for seniors. Again, your daughter or son, go see Deb K. And lastly, Melissa Stahl. It's very simple. We could figure this out fast. AP Spanish, AP French, AP Italian. In art and music, Deepak Mawa. Great guy, running great programs in both art and music. Now, I have to remember our APs. In music, AP Music Theory, AP Studio Art, AP Graphic Design, and AP Photography. We have 23 AP courses. I hope I got them all. I might have missed one, my apologies. Again, have your child see the chair, and they can add the request in after the fact, all right? Let's imagine a child applied for both AP, Bio, maybe 3. Let's take a current sophomore. Imagine they requested AP Bio, AP Chem, and AP Physics 1. It's okay to do that. They did not over-request. The best thing to do is get into all 3, then have a long conversation with mom and dad and friends, and I was going to say peers, that's redundant, teachers. Talk to the guidance counselor, and they'll help the child who right now is going to be overscheduled to bring it down. I'll just give you a couple of other examples. If I was working with a sophomore who got accepted to all 3, I'd want to talk about what might you possibly major in college, and obviously do later in your life. In fact, I did a couple of these last week, even before they've been accepted. A pre-med, go for the AP Bio in the junior year, the AP Chem in the senior year. An engineer, we're going to look at it differently. We need an AP Physics 1 in the junior year, among other things, of course. A business major, I wouldn't get hung up on an AP Science, obviously, except for admission. I'd say take the AP you're best at and go for it. And then I'd talk about AP Statistics, and in senior year, AP Calculus or Calculus for a business person. Think of APs in 2 ways for those that want them and can succeed at them. First, students need them for admission. You know that. You probably needed it for admission back in the day. Secondly, I call them the gift that keeps giving. So imagine a student takes statistics with us and goes to major in business. Freshman year, they're going to have to take, actually business calculus. Sophomore year, they have to take business statistics 1 and 2. It would be good if they took AP Statistics with us. It'll make those 2 courses easier. It's better business majors take calculus and AP calculus, because freshman year in business programs, they have to take business calculus 1 and business calculus 2. I'm kind of giving you a feel for what it's like when you're in the room with a student and they've been accepted to a lot of stuff, and how you distill it. Even with business, I'm talking about, oh, are you going to be fluent? Let's get to an AP language in a global economy. Sometimes we don't think about the global economy when we're advising a potential business leader. How close are you to fluent? And we work that way. So I recommend a lot of dialogue. The student talking to mom and dad first and foremost, peers. Teachers are wonderful guidance counselors, even though they're not credentialed. Chris Walsh and his 2 assistant principals, Laura Duback and Kristen Sautner, are outstanding guidance counselors. So there's in your home and in our school, there's lots of different people where your child could say, should I take this or that? Get a lot of good opinions, and then come see the counselor, and that'll be the final discussion before we schedule.
What's the date again that the junior has to, or when do they find out that they've been accepted?
It'll be Friday, March 15th, with one caveat. Imagine a child is in advanced photography this coming semester. That decision won't be made until May, because they're still putting things in the portfolio. So for a couple of arts, those will go later because they're working off the portfolio. It's more than just the grade and the teacher recommendation. So that's it. And by the way, I will write to you. Feel free to take notes, but I will always write to you letting you know what's coming up and what the date is for one thing or another. And let me give you a final scenario. This is how flexible we are. Imagine you visit a college in the summer. You can imagine what they're going to ask. Where do you go to high school? What's your GPA? What are your favorite courses? And what are you taking senior year? And the good folks in admissions listen. They might say, does your high school offer AP statistics? Yes. Why didn't you register for it? It would benefit you to take it. Oh, God, will we let you in? We let your child in. The answer is yes, provided we have the room. So sometimes, we have program change in late August, early September. A number of the people coming in are seniors who are changing their schedule then because they got good advice from someone in college admissions to drop one thing and take another. So how late can you change your schedule? In the AP world, I would say up to the Friday of the first week of classes. The official air drop date is September 30th, if you look at the district calendar. One can drop an AP up to the end of the first marking period. I like that safety net. So if one doesn't like AP English 11, or is not doing well in it, with no reference to grade on a transcript, the child would leave AP English 11 by about November 10th and go into English 11. No one will ever know it outside of our family here. And science research, if your child's a freshman now and they go into it, they could drop science research up to the end of the first semester, which is coming up. And then we would add an elective for the spring. So we have lots of flexibility, lots of deadlines, and all of it's really wrapped around a philosophical construct that we would call student-centeredness. We want to give people lots of time to change their minds and not be penalized for making certain decisions. All right, 7 a.m. health. I'm talking specifically to the parents of current freshmen about the sophomore year. I'm going to go slow on this. I've sent an email on it, and I'm going to send another one because there's probably 5 different caveats that can become confusing. So let me set the groundwork. This is a current freshman in their sophomore year. I'm going to start filling the 8 periods. They'll all take English 10. 1. They'll all take Global 2 or AP World. 3. They'll all have a math course. 4. They'll all have a science course. It'll be bio or chem. 5. They'll all have a science lab interfacing with phys ed. And 6. Almost all of them will have a world language unless they're language exempt. We've just filled 6 periods. So everybody got that now? We're good. And that's kind of non-negotiable between the requirements of New York State, etc. It's non-negotiable. We've only got 2 slots left. So now I'll walk you through the different scenarios. Imagine a student is in science research and global scholars. We've just filled 8 periods. She or he will need 7 a.m. health. We fill 6. 7 will be global scholars, 8 is science research, 7 a.m. health. Next scenario, 6 classes, science research, and a second language. Every year about 6 or 7 freshmen who are very proficient and they're in love with language take a second language, working with Melissa Stahl, the chair. We just filled 8 periods. Again, second language science research, 7 a.m. health. We'll take out science research, put global scholars back in with the second language. 7 a.m. health. Let's go to resource room. Some of your children may have resource room. It's not an elective, it's a mandate off an IEP or a 504 plan. However, it fills a slot. Resource room with global scholars or science research or a second language. 7 a.m. health. Let's go to the world of music. Music, orchestra, band, choral. Great electives, they're full year. So we filled our 6. We have a great musician or a great singer. Colleges love great musicians and great singers, especially when they're in the music program for 4 years. High quality electives. They are electives, I have to call them electives, they are. 6, a performing musical group is 7, and all the other things I mentioned become 8. 7 a.m. health. So thank you for bringing up the music. Full year elective. I won't repeat them all, you're very smart. Just slot any of those in, and it's 7 a.m. health. And I think I have them all, unless you can point out a scenario my old mind's just not remembering. We get it? As a team, we got it. So there's about 5 or 6 permeations, and with help from my colleague over here and friend, we got them all. I have written to the parents again once. We've talked to the students about it. I'm going to send 2 more emails just to freshman parents on the need for 7 a.m. health. And then we'll get your children into 7 a.m. health. So that's another important thing. So we've covered it all for the moment. Oh, let me just add 3, and then I want to hear more from you. I kind of started to touch on this a little earlier, where I started to say good guidance begins in your home with nice conversations with your daughters and sons. The importance of academic advisement and the role of parents. You could ask me a trick question and say, Mike, what are the 3 main things that your department does? It's academic advisement, college counseling, and personal counseling when needed. Then you could ask another question. In my professional opinion, what's the most important form of counseling? I would say if your child is facing anxiety, stress, or depression, obviously personal becomes the most important. Putting that on the side, academic advisement or counseling is more important than college, and I'll explain why. It creates the foundation. If your children, you, other experts like Chris Walsh and Laura and everybody, and my counselors are working together to establish a really solid academic base for a child, it makes college counseling a lot easier later. In fact, if we didn't do such a good job with academic advisement, the college counseling would become very poor automatically, because in certain cases, it's too late. If it's senior year and we're talking about a child doesn't have this, that, or another thing for a particular school or major, it's too late to fix it. The ship has sailed, metaphorically. And that's not a good thing, obviously. So the real most important thing we do, we take great pride in it, is academic advisement. If you like my father was an engineer, he always liked building metaphors. It's the foundation of the house. And you know what happens to a house that doesn't have a foundation or has a weak foundation. It really is the foundation. So it's very, very important. You play a critical role. They are your children. You love them dearly. Of secondary importance is you're older. You've been out in the world. You've made your own mistakes and you've had your own successes. academically and professionally. You have a wealth of experience that you can help them. So get engaged and help them. You're all deputy school counselors, and you're going to do great work. I always like when mom and dad are part of that conversation. It's critically important. And like I said, other folks too. So on number 3, the importance of advisement and the importance of your role, I can't overemphasize it enough. And if you ever want to talk to me or any of the counselors about advisement, please come in right away. Get a coffee. Let's sit down for an hour. Even if you're just exploring. I was thinking of saying this to my child, what do you think? Or when I went to college, it was this way. Is it the same or have things changed? You're always welcome. What I like about my department, it belongs to everybody. Every day it's neat. Lots of parents are coming by, and you're always welcome. Even if you're a freshman parent. You want to talk about college, I'll talk to you, but please don't talk to your children. I don't want freshmen getting caught up in the angst and the worry. I want them to love learning, have a good time, play basketball, play volleyball, swim. We'll get them in the college scene starting in junior year. So even if you're a freshman parent and want to talk about what does a 4-year program of study look like, we'll get out our curriculum planning chart, which is a great resource, and we'll map everything out over 4 years. I might as well talk about, how many of you have 8th graders? All right, I'll be speaking again soon. You can turn me off when I do this part. On February 1, Chris Walsh will mail you a nice letter. The letter will invite you to the 8th grade Parents' Night in March. The letter will also say, look at the attachments. Behind that letter will be freshman electives, course descriptions, and what we call the blue elective sheet. It's a blue sheet of paper. You put your child's name and you choose electives. Studio art, concert band, graphic design 1, photography, etc. You pick 3 primaries and 2 alternates. Your children will come to an assembly in March up here. We collect the sheets, we put it all in the system. And again, we'll let you know a little bit later on which ones they're getting. So that's coming for the 8th grade parents. February 1st mailing, sheets come in, you come up for a nice night. You meet everybody. We talk about just the freshman year for 8th grade parents. That's an important step too. Let's talk about SA2s, subject test. Back in the day, lots of schools wanted them. Very few schools want them now. Probably the top 30 schools in the country want 2 to 3. You can go to the website and see which ones they want. When should students take them? I'm going to get back to as late as possible with a couple of provisos. The first, you could write this down or remember it. I like the first Saturday of June for ACT2s. Most of our teaching is done here. AP courses are completed in May, correct?
SAT2.
SAT2s, my apologies, SAT2s. Thank you. The first Saturday in June. All our AP final exams were in May. Students reviewed for them rigorously, studied for them. So imagine a student was in AP English 11, for example, or English 11. Let me use AP English 11. They've already prepped for an exam in May. It's fresh in their memories. Go take the SAT2 in English, junior year, first Saturday in June. Even for a junior who's on level, English 11, who's going to need it, take it the same day. Review is just starting for the English regions. It will be about 3 weeks later. That's the time to do it. Try to do the most then. Now, here's a caveat. We run a great bio-ed program for freshmen. Imagine a child is getting A's or A pluses. I would recommend you talk to the teacher, Maria Montalbano, who gives very good advice. Do it after the mid-year grade, which you'll know soon. You'll have a freshman take the SAT 2s this June. And they may retake it if they take AP Bio later. Now imagine your child gets a 650. You may not consider that a great score as a freshman, but imagine after AP Bio, they get a 750. The colleges will spend more time looking at the 750, and the 650 does not become punitive. They factor in, they were 14, 15 when they took that first SAT 2. So again, you find the SAT 2s looking at the websites of the colleges. You can always talk to one of our counselors. Take them as late as possible. Some take, very few take, I gotta be careful how I choose my words, very few take both. More and more are going for the ACT. More and more of our students are taking the ACT because you can teach to the test. It's an achievement test. Here's an achievement test. We teach, you learn, you're tested. The SAT is an aptitude test, meaning it measures aptitude, but you can't teach to the material per se. In my view, it's a tougher test for most students. So our department typically advocates the ACT over the SAT for admission. They're equally great in terms of admission. One's not considered better than the other. And colleges and universities accept either one. Now, which is best for your child, that's going to depend. You let your child go through diagnostics. Again, retaining an outside service to do it. They'll give your child a ACT prep exam and an SAT. And based upon the results and the diagnostics from it, they'll make a professional recommendation that's data-driven. And they will recommend one test over the other, or they'll tell you it's a toss-up. They tested equally well both ways. We're talking here, and I want you to think of it, I like these words. I think they first came from the military and later American business. So I think you'll know it from anything you've read or heard about in terms of military or business, strategy and tactics. We know at West Point they teach strategy and tactics. We know in business schools they teach strategy and tactics. I think strategic planning is at the core of all businesses worldwide. When one applies to college, one has to employ strategy and tactics. So let me start with, this isn't real, but we'll create like a robo student. A 4.6 GPA, a perfect SAT score, 10 APs, A pluses in every class, and 5s on every AP exam. A 3-sport athlete, a child that's been involved in multiple activities. I don't know if such a, I have 3 kids, none of them were like that, but I love my children, but I'm actually overstating this. And one applies ED to a top school. They could get rejected. So let's take this child that doesn't exist. I don't want you going home saying, where did I go wrong? You didn't. Imagine the child applies to Princeton, ED. They may not get in. One thing we tell the junior parents very clearly is admissions is not fair. This is not a meritocracy. They don't take all the scores, load them in, print a spreadsheet. If they're taking in 1,000 freshmen, draw a line, everybody above the line's in, the next 100 get waitlisted, and the rest no. Kid may get in with a 3.7 from somewhere over the 4.6 from Byram Hills. For the top schools, ED1, and I'll use the language of business because I know a lot of our parents work in business, it's a deal breaker. One is sacrificing a competitive advantage or an advantage in a competitive admissions marketplace if one does not go ED1. Today, most colleges, top colleges, accept off of ED1. They want to know by early January, are they going to be able to make budget on July 1st when their fiscal year begins? So they want a freshman class of about 80% in and deposited. The president wants it, the University Board of Trustees, the CFO, the Dean of Admissions. The chances of getting in regular in this hypothetical are much, much less. ED1 is an admissions program. It's been on the books for years. I got out of high school in '70 and it existed back then, but none of us ever chose it. It means one must apply by November 1. People will know by roughly December 20th if they're in or not, and it's binding. One has to deposit and withdraw all of their other applications immediately. The ED1 decision document is signed by a parent, your child, and one of my counselors. It's not legally binding. I've never heard of a college going into a federal court holding it, but it's binding. ED2 becomes binding too, except it takes place in January and February.
So this is what they call early decision and early application.
A little louder.
Is this what they call early decision and early application?
Yeah. Now, if I had a admissions person here, they would speak for 5 minutes and you'd walk out saying, ED1 is in the best interest of children. A very eloquent speech. It's not. It's not. ED1 is in the best interest of the institution. It's not in the best interest of your daughter and son, no matter what anybody tells you. The best thing would be no ED programs, except everybody in March, excluding rolling admissions, which we're not talking about right now. The best thing is to give the process and your child more time. But that doesn't happen in the modern day. So you will hear from my counselors in September. How many of you are junior parents again? You might hear this by June, but you're definitely going to hear it by the middle of September. They'll say it's imperative or something close to that for your child to apply ED to school 1, 2, or 3, whatever. There's one entry point to science research. It's the beginning of sophomore year. There are multiple exit points. They could, 2 of them. They could leave it after sophomore, junior year. Global scholars, there's 3 entry points. Sophomore, junior, and senior year. There's 2 exit points. You know what they are. So there's a little bit more flexibility in global scholars, but it makes sense. Comparing that, I don't want you to think negatively of science research. It's not an apples to apples comparison. We'll end our time. We'll be back together in March. I thank you all.